Jump on up here. I want you to turn around this way and kind of, let me grab you right here. You walk in place. You just like you walking in place. I don't have him by his hands. I don't have him by his legs. I don't have him by his feet. I don't have him by his arms, but I've got a stronghold. He can't go nowhere unless I let him go. And a stronghold will control your life. It will pull you where you want to go. You might feel the devil will let you feel like you're getting somewhere and you're taking care of your own problems, but he's still got that stronghold. And until you take and you deal with it, you're going to be controlled by it. He'll take you over here into alcohol. He'll take you over here into pornography. He'll take you over here into some sin. He'll take you over here to drugs. He'll take you wherever you want to. You can get in an altar every day, but until you sit down and you believe and you tell God to take a stronghold from me, it's not going to go anywhere. A lot of people go to the altar and pretend to take care of needs. They're not going because they want that need taken care of. They're going because they want to look good. This ain't about how we look. This is about making it to heaven. And he's not going to go anywhere because I got a stronghold. I want you to raise your hands and start praying, little man. Raise your hands. Raise your hands. I want you to start praying. And you see when he starts praying, he'll pray and he'll pray and he'll keep walking. And then when he prays so much, that stronghold's broken. And you can go and you can do what God's asking of you. But until then, it won't be done. I was going to sing another song. I want to talk about where I come from. About 11 years ago, I was making, on average, $40,000 a week. Most people don't make that in a year. What I was doing was illegal. I was buying houses. I was buying cars. I didn't sell drugs. I did drugs in my young dumb years, but I was not selling drugs. We had found out a scam that you could run on businesses that you couldn't be, well, we didn't think we could get put in jail for it. And my dad turned me into the police. And me and the guys that were running the scam went to the business where we were doing this. Police had surrounded the place. We got out of the car, they were all looking at us. I had a little white sport fancy car. And when I stepped out of the car, I seen all the cops looking at us. And they were waiting for us to walk to the building. They were going to jump us. And I asked my buddy, did he see what was going on? We got in that little car. I don't know why we didn't leave the transmission there. Because I grinded every gear trying to get out of there, going just as fast and to get away as I could. I didn't want them cops to get me. And as we were running out, I went home. And my dad was sitting on the couch. He was laughing. And I knew right then that he'd called the law on me. My dad knew I was in sin. My father's a pastor. And I just, right then and there, I looked in his eyes and I said, you know what, you're mad? You're mad because I make more money than you. At the age of 17, how many 17-year-olds make $40,000 in a week's time? I said, you're mad because I make more money in 2 weeks than you can make in 2 years. I make more money in 1 month than you can make in 5 years. And I got so mad, church, that I left everything I had. I took a little box and I walked out onto the street. And for 1 year and a half, I lived on the street. I went from making that kind of money, illegally, granted, to living on the street. I had begun to eat out of garbage cans. I was sleeping under bridges. I'd lost everything, and I believed the lie that the devil told me. And I was going back and forth. Like the birds do, it gets cold, we go south. But as I was out on the street, I was so depressed. I was so lost. I was so hungry. My holes were torn apart, holes all in my clothes. And I used to go, there's a patch of woods in front of my parents' house. And I would sit in those woods and I would cry because I still loved them. But I believed the lie that the devil told me, that they didn't love me and they didn't want me. And I continued to live on the street. On the side of 95 in South Carolina, at south of the border. Has anybody heard of it? A lot of people do. And it was right there on the side of 95. I stuck up my thumb and a ride had stopped because it was winter was coming around. And like the birds go south, bums go south too because they get away from the cold. And I was headed in that direction and the car stopped. And I was fixing to get in it. And just as clear as you hear me talking to you, I heard God tell me, if you get in that car, don't you ever ask for me again. And I started immediately, I started crying. And I shut the door. And an old cardboard box with some clothes with holes in it on the side of 95. I fell to my knees and I asked God into my heart. And I walked down to a payphone after I sit there. My eyes just filled with tears. I called my grandmother and asked her if she could come and get me. She was about an hour away. She would have beat Dale Jr. there. I think she made it in 20 minutes. She was on time, buddy. She was getting it. I never seen Grandma drive so fast. But when she got there, she didn't even recognize me. I might have weighed 90 pounds. I had hair way down my back. My clothes were falling off of me. She took and gave me a hug. And she started crying and said, I love you. And for the first time in a year and a half, that's the only time I had heard that I love you. That's the first time somebody had put their arms around me. That's the first time that I had had interaction with somebody that I know really cares about me. I'm telling you, God cares about you that much. And we went back to her house. And family from all over there were driving from about an hour around coming to her house. They wouldn't talk to me. I was tired. And they just stared at me. Couldn't believe. They didn't even know I was still alive. A lot of them had just give up. Thought I'd never come back around. And we were sitting there and I looked at her. I said, do you think my father would let me go back home? She says, I can't answer that. She said, but you can call him. So I called my father. And I said, Dad, and I told him the story that I just told you about being saved on the side of 95. And I said, do you think that I could come back home and start over? I was so scared he was going to say no. But he calmed down. And he picked me up. And let me tell you, I know the story of the prodigal son. When I got back home, I had new clothes. I laid in a warm bed. I had a meal that was fit for the king. I'm telling you, my daddy wrapped his arms around me and he held tight to me and he told me he loved me, church. And nothing's hit me that hard before in my life, church. When you're at the bottom, when there's no way out, I know what the bottom of the barrel was. I sit at the bottom of the barrel. I eat out of the garbage cans. But then your father, an earthly father, put his arms around me, told me he loved me. And he took me back home. Church, you don't know what that done for me. 2 weeks after that, I went from the bottom of the barrel 2 weeks later to sign a recording contract of $175,000 a year. I've sang in Carnegie Hall. I've sang at Arlington National Cemetery. I've sang for presidents. I've sang for so many, people that were supposed to be so much bigger and so much better than me. But I'm telling you, they were just man.